What is up? This is Josh West with Cellar Door Sound. I am so stoked because today we are going to be talking about drums, specifically kick drum. I'm going to show you some advanced techniques to get your kick to sound awesome in any track. And a lot of what we're going to do applies to most kicks. I mean, I know all kicks are different, but the things we're going to learn today are pretty universal as far as acoustic kick drums. And I'm going to show you what to look for, what to add, what to take away, and a couple things to kind of spice up your kick, and a couple tricks to use the other microphones along in the drum set to make your kick sound better. But before we get into that, before I started doing YouTube videos, I was actually doing Facebook Lives on my personal Facebook, and the question that I got all the time from my community, from my people, was always about vocals. Vocals are arguably one of the hardest things to mix because they're just so different. Every voice is different. And so after going through so many questions and responding to so many people, I decided to kind of try and figure out a way to help them out to make their lives a little bit easier. So what I did was created my preset pack, all for vocals, the Ultimate Vocal Preset Bundle. This works with GarageBand and Logic. And when you sign up at cellardoorsound.co/free presets or click the link down in the description, you get access to over 30 presets for EQ, compression, and saturation. And it comes with a free training video where I walk you through how to put them into your computer so you can use them on all of your vocals. And I show you how to manipulate them and start to learn how to use EQ, how to use compression, and ultimately what you're looking for when you're listening to a vocal, if you're working on your own vocals or you're working on someone else's. So I hope you go grab that. It's completely free. Just click the link down below and enjoy it and use it. And if you do end up using it, definitely send me something. My email is josh@cellardoorsound.co. I would love to hear what you have. I'd love to talk with you about it. I love talking to people about audio, and that's the biggest reason why I do this. So let's get in today's video. This is the second video in the Better Mix series. Last week, I started with this song, and we ended up just listening to the intro of this song, and I kind of talk about what I do when I first get a bunch of tracks from an artist. And we went through the electric guitar and created a really cool delay effect. Let's just solo it up and listen to this delay effect that we made. Sounds really cool, and it sounds great with the song. I mean, without that delay, sounds cool, but it's just a cool vibe that we added. So if you haven't seen that video, a link just popped up above. Click it, go watch that, and then come back to this one because they kind of fall in order. So yeah, let's get into this. After, like, normally whenever I listen to these songs, I like to just push play. I like to get a quick mix up, so I'll start panning things. I'll get, the drums, I'll go through bass, and I'll get everything in just a decent spot because I like to have the song sort of not mixed, but just leveled out so I can hear everything and then decide what's the most important thing. And once I did that, in the beginning, I realized this guitar is very important. Normally I start on drums, but if there's something that catches me immediately and I want to make it more interesting or want to feature a little bit more, I attack it. And that's what we did with this electric guitar. So let's just push play, and we're going to listen to this, and we're going to focus on the kick drum today. So if you don't have headphones, I highly recommend you pause the video and go grab them because especially kick drum is hard to hear on a phone or even just computer speakers. Let's listen. Awesome. So after that guitar part, obviously a big part of this song is this kick drum. I mean, it's driving this beat immediately when the song kicks on. So let's solo all the drums here, and let's listen to what we have. All right. So the first thing that I like to tackle with kick drum is I want to make sure that the bleed is okay and that my kick drum is truly coming down center. So what I mean by that is if I just solo up the kick drum and these overheads here, I want to make sure that my kick drum is being perceived right down the center, because that's where the kick should lie. And sometimes if the overheads are not in balance together, your kick drum can start to seem kind of panned slightly left, and it'll throw off your mix later on. So let's listen to that. Okay, I think let's listen to just overheads. Okay, to me, it sounds like in the left channel, it sounds like my kick is almost like slightly to the left, which means this left channel, this left overhead I have here that's panned to the left, is a little bit louder. So usually what I do to fix this is I'll solo just the overheads, and I'll watch my master meter right here and listen for parts where there's no cymbals, nothing else. It's just that kick drum, and see if they're at roughly the same level. So we'll try that. Looking right here, you can see the left channel is a little bit hotter. So let's bring it down a little bit. Awesome. So that's pretty close. It sounds a lot better to me. Let's listen with the kick. Awesome. Already a lot better. We have everything lined out, so that's great. All right. The next thing that we need to look at is this snare and hat. There's nothing happening in the snare and hat in this beginning. So what I want to do is take that out, because if I solo kick, snare, and hat, and we listen, we just have a bunch of air. The kick is bleeding into these mics, which we'll sort out later. But for now, since nothing's happening here, I'm just going to click and just kind of drag this to where that snare is going to start to come in, which is about there. And for now, we'll just bring the hi-hat to the same spot. And now we should have our dry kick. Awesome. So the next thing we have is the toms. I'm sure the kick is bleeding pretty heavily in the toms. And cymbals. So what we're going to do for now is we're going to just turn down these toms. Oops, that's the hat. Turn down these toms. Okay, perfect. We're going to sort out the toms in another video, but for now we're just going to keep them off, and so that we have a nice, clean sounding kit. Let's listen with the song. Okay, the kick is a little bit more pronounced. It's definitely raw. It's not mixed. So now is the point where we can start mixing. Now that we took out that bleed, we turned down the toms, and we align those overheads, we're ready to start. I like to kind of take care of that stuff in the beginning, just so that I'm not fighting something that's in another audio track. A lot of times when you start mixing the kick and you have so much other stuff going on that you're hearing the kick, it can kind of mess everything up. So let's solo the kick and start working on it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pull up an EQ, of course. And we're going to do this in a few steps. So the first thing I always do is clean up the kick with an EQ. I don't really try to think about the high end too much in this point of EQ. I just want to make the kick just beefier and have some drive, and take out any frequencies that are causing it not to be impactful and kind of transient. So I already can hear that I have a little bit too much, and you can kind of see in this little analyzer here, a little bit too much in this sort of 100 hertz area. So what I'm going to do is push play. I'm going to move this guy up and try and find that frequency that's just a little woofy, that's kind of making it dirty-ish. So let's tighten this band just a little bit. Or sorry, this Q. Well, we are tightening the band, but let's go up to about here. That's probably fine. And let's see what we got. Okay, so that's definitely the frequency that we do not want. So I'm going to leave that there once I found it. And I'm going to bring this to 0 on the gain. And then I'm going to start bringing it down while I push play just to get it in a good spot. Let's turn this kick up so you can hear it better. Awesome. So you can definitely hear that difference whenever I turn this off and on. With it off, sounds really raw. Turn it on. Sounds drivier. It's really nice. Okay, so the next thing that I want to do is add a tiny bit more low end to this. So we're gonna grab this low shelf here and just bring up some low end. You always need a little bit of low end when you're doing kicks. Cool. So that sounds fine. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut a little bit of the super low frequencies. This just kind of cleans up the kick. I don't always do this, but sometimes if I feel like I really need to boost this low end, I'll cut a little bit. So we're going to do a little low cut here, and I'm going to bring this up just a little bit and see how this sounds. Cool. So it makes it really tight in this area, which is this frequency right here, which is probably, I don't know, probably 40, 30-ish hertz is really where that sub kick is landing. And it's just makes it a little tighter. If you don't have really good headphones, you're not going to hear this, obviously. Okay, so that is all that I want to do on my first task with this EQ. So we cleaned up the kick. It's starting to sound really nice. And now we're going to do some compression. So I'm going to go to a free compressor that I'll link to in the bio. I've used it a few times on some local stuff. This thing's really great. It's by Klanghelm, and it is this MJUC Junior. This thing is awesome. Okay, so immediately I'm going to want to change this time constants to fast. This just makes it a fast attack, fast release. It's a little bit advanced, but this compressor is so simple because it's kind of an analog style compressor, and we just basically turn up this knob for the amount of compression we want, and we'll see the gain reduction right here in this little BU meter. So let's try it. And I'm gonna go for, I'm kind of listening, but I'm gonna shoot for around -3, 4, 5, kind of in this area for the kick. Cool. So this is kind of making the kick even, kind of cleaning it up. And then we're going to add some makeup gain on it since we're kind of compressing it on all those transients. We're going to make it up with this gain here. Cool. So that's about fine. -6. So yeah, we got some compression in here. Sounds pretty good. Love compression. And the next thing that I want to do is this kick has a lot of sustain in it. And I'm looking for a more tighter sound. I really want it to punch and you feel it. And I don't want all that resonance that you're hearing. So luckily, GarageBand has its own Transient Designer. And it is called, where are you at? Enveloper. This plugin is really great. It's really awesome. You would spend a lot of money to get a really good Transient Designer, and this thing just does really good. So what it does is it has this release gain and attack gain. This is really the only things you need to mess with. And what it's going to do is this release gain, when I lower it, it's going to lower after the attack. When the kick drum hits, and that kind of resonance that you hear, it's going to lower just that and keep our attack there. So I'm going to push play. I'm going to start to lower this release gain to where I feel like it's in a good spot, and it's punchy. Awesome. And the cool part is this attack gain will actually raise that transient right when it comes in. And so we're just going to raise that just a little bit to give, again, just a little more impact. Awesome. So let's turn just this off so you can hear the difference here. So this is without our Transient Designer. Kind of dead, kind of ringy. Turn it on. Awesome. We have a better attack. The sustain's a little lower. It's really great. This guy is very subtle, but it makes a massive difference in your song. It really, really does. And we'll see that once we turn all this stuff off and on. All right, so the last thing that we're going to do is, now that we've kind of controlled the kick, we've cleaned it up, it's starting to sound nice and full, I want to add an EQ to kind of spice it up and make it intelligible across the entire mix. So we're going to go to Fuse Audio Labs. I've talked about this EQ so many times, and this is the RSW2395C. I say this every time, but I wish they would have came up with a better name for this. But this is an analog style EQ, and it just sounds really good when you boost frequencies, and you can boost like crazy, and it doesn't totally corrupt the sound, which is great. You can't get that out of the stock EQ inside of GarageBand. So I already know I'm going to want to boost quite a bit of high frequencies, because we want that clickiness to be heard across all speakers, even your phone speaker, and it just kind of helps drive the track. So let's try it. So I'm going to make sure my little switch here is on 5K, and we're just going to use a slider to boost it up. Cool. I went to plus 12, and actually that's kind of where I want it. Some people might say that's too much, but plus 12 is there for a reason. So if you want to boost it all the way, just try it. Like, it doesn't hurt. And the next thing that I want to do is I want to boost a little bit more low end again, because why not? And the low end boost on this guy sounds really great. So I'm going to keep this guy on 80 hertz, and we're going to try boosting a little bit of low end here. Cool. That sounds good. And last thing I'm going to do is I want to add some drive. This is just sort of just some light saturation on the kick, and I just like using it because it sounds good. It makes it kind of sound like it is coming out of a recording console, which is nice, like an actual analog console. Awesome. Sounding pretty sweet. Okay, let's turn this back down, and I want to listen to it with just these drum tracks here and kind of see how it's sounding together. Awesome. Let's listen to it with the track. All right, so I noticed I was kind of pushing a bit too much, a bit of gain on my fader, and I wanted a little bit more. So one easy way to do this is, if you have an EQ like this at the end of your plugin chain, a lot of times there's a trim knob here, and you can kind of just turn that up, and it just helps you add some gain while still having control. Because I could push this fader all the way up, but maybe in the song I want to bring it more up or down or whatever, so I just use this guy to add a little bit of trim here. And it really made this intro of the song start to drive and feel really nice. So let's turn off everything we've done. We're going to turn off the EQ, compressor, transient designer, and our another EQ, and listen to what we have. All right, it sounds kind of raw, like a recorded track. And let's turn on everything that we got going on here. Awesome. That kick sounds really tight. It's nice. It's not too much. It's not overbearing on this type of track. We could process it way more heavily if we were doing a rock track or something like that. But it sounds really full and nice here, which is great. So hopefully you loved that video today. Drums are my favorite. I became interested in audio because of drums, because I loved records and listening to the drums and going to live shows and just hearing how you could manipulate drums to make them sound awesome. And so I'm excited for the next few videos in the series, because we're going to be talking all about drums and just getting the drums to sound awesome within this track. So don't forget, go grab my Ultimate Vocal Preset Bundle. There's over 30 presets for EQ, compression, saturation, all for your vocals, all for free at cellardoorsound.co/free presets. And it comes with a training that shows you how to put these on your computer, how to manipulate your audio with these plugins. And I hope you grab it, and I hope you make your music better and you start releasing more things, because that's the whole point of this entire channel, is to get you to release more music, to work with more people, and to be comfortable making stuff sound good and being confident in that. So thank you so much for watching. Definitely subscribe, like button, all that stuff is good and beneficial and helps the channel, of course. And I will see you next week for number 3 of the Better Mix series. Peace out, guys. Have a good week.